Hi there, thanks for joining. In this video we're gonna paint an apple in 9 tonal values. I've edited this picture in a photo editing program and I've reduced the tonal values to 9 steps. And when you look at that photo and you squint your eyes, you see that it already looks rather realistic with only 9 tonal values. Now, and you can also download this simple sketch and you can put it on your canvas or on your paper. And these lines indicate the borders of the tonal values that you see. So this is the way, when you're a little bit more advanced painter, this is kind of the way that you look at the world. You look at different zones of tonal values and colors. You sketch the zones that you see. And you can do that with every subject, with portraits, etc. And after that, as you can imagine, if you only have 9 values, as in this photograph, I only have to mix 9 values on my palette, and I only have to put those values at the right spots on my canvas. And then, if everything goes right, I will get a rather realistic looking picture already, painting. So I only need black and white paint, because then I can mix all these grey paints in between. And of course you can do this in several ways. The way I prefer is pre-mixing the 9 tonal values. So I'll drop the black over here, pure black, and pure white over here. And now this is the way you can approach every painting. I start searching for the darkest value. There's always a value that is the darkest in your painting, in your photograph or in real life, of course. So I already quickly see that this might be the darkest value, don't you agree? So this and here in the stem maybe, but all the other values seem lighter. Now of course what also might help is a tonal value finder, like this. So you can search for, okay, this looks like rather dark, almost pure black. This is a little bit lighter, so that's a lighter value, you see. So then you can search where are the darkest values. So we've established this is the darkest value. Is it pure black? No, it's slightly lighter than pure black. So my first value will be black with a little touch of white to make it slightly lighter. That's you don't always encounter pure black in your subject, so the darkest dark doesn't always have to be black. And the lightest light also doesn't have to be pure white. So is this good enough? Yes, I think so. So that's my darkest value. That's one of the 9 values that I'm gonna use. Now I head over to a slightly lighter value. Where is a slightly lighter value? Well, it's rather simple in this photograph, because the next value to the value that's next to this dark value is slightly lighter. So this is my second step, a little bit of black and a little bit of white. There we go, that's slightly lighter. Is it light enough? I will check it with the back side of my palette knife. I can check. That's rather good. See? It isn't too light, it isn't too dark, it's quite right. Okay, so that's my second value. And the second value, I will encounter it here as well, and in the stem of the in the stem here, and in the cast shadow on the ground as well. You see? Now we head over to a slightly lighter value again. So the third value, I'll drop some black over here and I'll add more white. There we go. Is this light enough? I guess so, you see? So I just mix and compare. Now I head over to the next value, and that is this one. So again, a little bit of black, but I need less black now, of course, and more white. So this pre-mixing takes a little bit of time. And we always want to start painting straight away, of course, because painting is fun. But pre-mixing is fun as well, and you now can focus solely on the tonal values. And that's it's always easier to focus on one thing at a time, of course. You see, that's good for this tonal value. Then I head over to a lighter tonal value. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I go over to 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is lighter again. So a little bit of black and even more white. There we go. And every time when you mix, you compare with the source. Okay. Now this one, and that's rather a light tonal value. As you can see, now these were kind of the shadow colors until this one, up till this one. Now we're in the light zone. This one is already in the lighter part of the tonal value scale, and this tonal value is definitely rather light. So, and I also will start with white this time, because now I only need a little bit of black to turn this white into a slightly darker tonal value. Always the darker color is stronger than the lighter color, so always be careful. If you want to make a light color, always start from the light color and add a very slight touch of the dark color, because before you know it, it gets too dark. So now it may be a little bit too light, that's no problem. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we are there with the 6. This is too light, this is more of that one. So I need to add a little bit more black, but I also can do the following. I can also take a little bit to be on the safe side and take a little bit of this gray. Then this value doesn't shift that quickly. You see? Be careful when you add black, especially lamp black is a very strong pigment. And then we see that's a good one for that 6th tonal value. So there we have it, already 6. We only need 3 more. This one is again a little bit lighter, so I grab a little bit of white again. Okay, this one needs to be even lighter. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, that's good. Now we go to 8. That is this one. That's rather light. So grab a lot of white. There you go. As you see, and it needs to be a little bit darker. So, because I want to be careful not to adjust it too much straight away, I'll just grab, so I clean the palette knife, by the way, and then I grab a little bit of gray, of this one for instance, so that I only alter it a little bit. You see that already has a lot of effect, so you could also choose a lighter gray to adjust that white color, that white tonal value. Now I'm gonna check, that's good already. You see, so that needed only a very little touch of gray. And now, last one is this. Is that pure white? Let's check. Well, it's, and that's the same, the background color is the same. It's slightly, it's not completely white, so I'll take the white here. And now I'll add a little bit of this gray, of a very light gray, only to alter it ever so slightly. You see, you hardly see the difference, but there is a difference. A very tiny difference. And that's what we're training as well, to see the subtle differences between, for instance, pure white and a little bit of white. And that can make a very big difference when you want to paint realistically. So here we have them. 9 tonal values, so now we can start painting. Where do I need to put the darkest value? Now it's only painting by numbers, so to speak, because we already have the 9 numbers. We could drop numbers in this drawing as well, as a matter of speaking. But this darkest value, where do we see that? We see it here in the core shadow. and here at the darkest part of the cast shadow. So, and there you see immediately, here is no difference between this dark tonal value in the cast shadow and the apple, the dark tonal value on the apple itself. And that's a way we as painters learn to look. We don't see a line of the apple here is what I mean. So here we see a line a little bit, a shift between apple and background. But here we see a line as well, kind of a line, because we see a dark part and a slightly lighter part. But here there is no line, so we see no difference in that dark part between the apple and the floor. So we don't paint that as well. That's what we learn also when we look for tonal values. We learn to look at what we really see instead of what we think we see. And that's the fun, and that's the joy of painting. And we learn not to take for granted what we think we see, but we learn to look very consciously. So there we go. That's the darkest part. Now also as well at the stem we see dark parts. We can do it a little bit globally, we don't have to be that precise. And to make a straight line like this, I just hold my brush perpendicular to the canvas and I do something like this. But we don't have to be too precise, and there maybe here in this hole I see a little bit of that very dark value. And then in the background, maybe you think this is very dark, this one, but when we compare this one to this one, this definitely is darker than that one. And if you cannot see that very clearly, that's no shame, because it is very difficult. Then again, get your tonal value scale. This one is nearly black, and if I hold this one to that, you see that this definitely is lighter, so that's a lighter tonal value. So that's the game we play. Now, I clean the brush a little bit, so I just wipe the excess paint out of the bristles. By the way, I use a lot of paper towel, but I throw them in a special bin. Next day I can use them again because acrylics dry, water insoluble. So now I head over to the second tonal value, that slightly lighter tonal value. Where do we see it? We see it around the dark value here, for instance, a little bit. So I try not to touch that black tonal value or the darkest tonal value too much. I just put it a little bit, I drop it against it, so to speak. And then here I see something like this, see, here, and I just follow my sketch. I don't blend the two values together. We could always do that later on, but at this stage I just put the two tonal values next to each other. And do you already see how much fun painting is when you've put those tonal values, when you've premixed the tonal values? It's really more fun than when you would start painting and you have to adjust the tonal values on your palette all the time. So then you're busy painting and then you think, oh, I need a lighter tonal value, and then you have to start mixing again. And of course, between these tonal values I can easily make transitional tonal values. I will show that shortly. Just let us finish this first. So I just follow all the places where I need to put this tonal value. You see? So now, when I want to, I'll do it only at this spot. I will blend these two a little bit together. So I have this tonal, this tonal value on my brush, And now I just wipe a little bit towards that other tonal value. I keep the brush on the canvas and I just wipe them together a little bit. See? So, of course, we're cheating now a little bit because on the photograph there's a hard border, but also I can do the following. I can take this tonal value and mix it a little bit with this one. So now it gets slightly darker. I have a value in between these two and I can drop that on top of those two. Then I get a very soft transition. You see? There we go. So that was only to show we don't have to bother by that in the beginning. We just have to put the tonal values at the right spots. But after that, of course, you can adjust and make transitions if you want. And you can make, how you call it, gradients. Okay, so now I continue with this dark value because this cast shadow here is also this tonal value. So there we go. Here I don't want to blend, I make a rather hard line. You see, and then just now I'm just busy painting, painting, painting. Oh yeah, here in the cast shadow there's also this part is slightly lighter. And maybe at the stem again as well, I'll drop another line near that other one, but that's not that important, I guess. And maybe a little bit of the cast shadow of that stem. And then we're gonna check, is this tonal value the same as that one? It's difficult to see, don't you think? Don't you agree? So I grab my tonal value scale finder and I see, aha, this second value is a little bit like this. If I go over here, it's also a little bit like that. So this is the same tonal value. So I can grab this paint again and I just see it over here. And of course, it's just a little bit of background work. We don't have to be too precise about this part of the painting. But it's fun to stick a little bit to reality, to what we see. And then this is all lighter. So the rest I leave like that. Now, I want to head over to a lighter tonal value, but my brush is messy. It contains a lot of paint. So again, I grab a piece of paper towel and I wipe off the excess paint, you see. If I drop this in this paint, now it will become slightly darker. At this stage I don't want that, so I want to clean it slightly more. So I dip it in the water, only dip it, so it's moist, and I wipe off more paint again. You see, more paint comes off, and now it's good enough to go to the next value. We don't have to clean it that thoroughly. Later on, when we go to the lighter values, it will become more important. Now we go to that slightly lighter value. We see it over here, all around here, you see? Same story again. So maybe it's easy to start here. So when I want to do, I've got a rather big flat brush. I want to do this small part. Of course, I hold the brush a little bit perpendicular to the canvas so I can make small strokes, you see? Yeah. And here the stroke is even smaller. Here, around here we get this. So there we go. Yep. Just follow this line. Okay. So you see already something is starting to happen, huh? In the dark parts. But in the cast shadow over here, I see it as well a little bit. So there we go. And I hope as well that you will see that these tonal values play a very important part for realism. That's the whole thing. Well, this value, where do we see it in the rest of the picture? Is this value the same as this? I guess so, but I want to be more sure. So this value is rather close to this one. So I say, okay, is that the same here? Yeah, yes, it is. See, so that's the same value, and we see it over here as well, this part. So here, like this. Oh, there I've forgotten to put in that slightly darker part, but that's no problem. I'll leave it like that. That's not that big of a problem. So this is a little bit of background work. From here on, and you see here is a slightly lighter value, but from here on it's all the same. It's all around that slightly darker value that we already put there. And then so the darkest part of these cast shadows on the ground are also that tonal value. At the edges you see that it gets slightly lighter. So that is why these cast shadows sometimes have a little bit of a soft edge, and that is due to lighter values. And now you see why, because surrounding that dark values are some slightly lighter values, and that's what makes something look soft when it gets connected. Okay, so there we go. Just drop in all this color, all this over here. Over here, like that. There we see it as well a little bit on top of this darker part. Well, this doesn't matter that much, so I'll just drop it in a little bit like this, a little bit painterly. You see, but there we go. That's enough of that. Still, maybe here in the stem a little bit of the slightly color as well. So you see we gradually build from dark to light there as well. And here in that hole a little bit over here, I guess. You see? So, and these lighter values I can easily put on top of that as well. The rest of the cast shadow of the stem over here is also a little bit of this value, I think. And well, then we head over to the next tonal value. So I'll grab a little bit of paper towel again, wipe it, make it moist. So I say make it moist, so take a look at my water. It's still very clean. Might not look like that because the bottom isn't that clean, but my water is clean. There's hardly any pigment in it at all. So I just dip it in, you see? And then the bristles are moist. Then I can clean the bristles slightly more, like this. Now hardly any paint comes off. It's still a little bit gray, but this doesn't matter that much anymore. It won't adjust this color that much. So now I've dried it a little bit as well. So I go over to the next tonal value. Well, I'll drop it around here again, like this. A very very small line, very subtle. You see, there we go. And now, then, on top of the apple here. And there we go again, all around the previous tonal value. And again, I don't blend, I just drop it beside that previous tonal value. But blending isn't that difficult anymore if you want to do it. When you've got a base of good tonal values, then you can easily blend. I will show that again, because sometimes people want to know how you do that. And, it's understandable, but it's not the main problem. The main problem, the main theme is first get your tonal values right. Now, just to show you, here you see that it isn't blended. Yeah, in a way it is blended, because you see slight variations of this color coming back. So this isn't a hard edge. But when I want to blend it, when this would be a painting and I would want to blend this, then I would do it like this. I grab a little bit of this tonal value, you see this one, and the previous tonal value, that's here. So I grab there a little bit of that as well. And then I make a tonal value in between this one and this one. Because when I do that, I can easily go over these two, you see. And now you see I get a very nice soft blend. No problem at all. So, people always think that blending is hard with acrylics, but it isn't. If you've got your tonal values right, nothing is that difficult anymore. That's the main thing. It's all tonal value, tonal value, tonal value. That's why it's so important. That's why the old masters always wanted their pupils to master tonal values first. And when you practice it out of the context like this, or I will show you between this one and this one as well. And when you master tonal values, a lot of painterly problems will get solved. You see, this is a little bit. Go on top of this second time to make it cover a little bit. You see, you can very easily blend. It's no problem at all. But enough of that, now you know that, and let's continue. Where do we encounter this tonal value at more spots? Well, surrounding this one. Okay, so again I grab this tonal value and maybe also slightly around these dark cast shadows already to connect it a little bit with the background. You see, I do it like that and they get a little bit softer. So that's a way of optical blending, you could say. What am I doing here? Oh yeah, this is for here, so this is a good tonal value for over here. There we go. But you see how much fun it is to paint when you've got piles of paint pre-mixed on your palette. I cannot stress that enough as well. It's another big advantage when you paint and everything is on your palette like this. You can jump to and from all these values. And it's very easy to build your painting like that. Now we head over to the really light part. So now we've covered the dark parts, because all of this I consider as dark values. But from here we get in the light zone. You see, if we take the tonal value scale, this middle gray is something like this a little bit, and from there it all gets lighter. The lighter we go, the more important it becomes to clean your bristles thoroughly. So first, excess paint, I clean it, I dip it in the water again. Again, I don't rinse in the water, I just dip it. And then every time I dip, again, and then still more paint comes off, you see. I won't film that the whole time, I guess, because It's a little bit boring to see me cleaning the brush, but that's just the way I do it when I head over to the lighter values. Again, easiest is to start on the apple itself. So we have a little bit of that very light or rather light value at the side of the apple over here, at the outer side. There we go. There I don't, yeah, there I see it as well, like this. And then we get on the top of the apple here, you see, and we drop it in like that. And then we go like this and like this. There we go. All along the apple. And as well, now I built this painting from dark to light. That's rather easy with acrylics. Do you have to paint like this the rest of your life? No, of course not. But this is a very good practice to look and search for tonal values and get a feel for that. But when you master that a little bit, when you're a little bit experienced with that, of course you're free to do it as however you like to paint. That's no problem. You can start with light or in the middle, and there are no rules. This is just an exercise to help you see tonal values. This one, this tonal value, do I encounter it at other spots as well? Well, maybe there in that hole. I guess it's the same, well, a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit lighter, but I just drop it in here and I will adjust it later on with slightly lighter tonal values. But at this moment, I think this is a slightly lighter tonal value, by the way. So this isn't that correct, but well, we'll get to that later. Okay. This tonal value, do I have it over here? Yes. So this one is also over here. Next to that value that's already there. You see, there we go. And also I can do another line at the side of the cast shadow on the floor to make that even more soft, you see. And do I have to paint very precise to make that happen? No, I don't. You see, I do it rather messy, but you see that before we had a very hard cast shadow on the ground, but now it gets soft. The edges are soft, you see, because the dark gets more connected to the lighter value because there are values in between. And same goes, for instance, for clouds. Often people say, how can I make these clouds soft? Often people use too hard of contrasts in values in the clouds, for instance, and at other spots as well. But most of the times when you encounter a painting problem, it has to do with tonal values. And if you see that, then life gets easier. Again, I'm wiping clean, I make it moist again, and I'll show you my water bottle again. Here you go. Still very clean water, you see? I hardly pollute water. That's very important, because you don't want to pollute water. It's clean enough, I go over to the lighter value, like this. Here I see a part that's rather light, maybe here a little bit at the outer side here, you see, and so where did I say? Here a little bit, but that's very small. Now, then I just follow along on the apple again, so it's over there, see here, And now the difficult thing is that on the photograph, this gray value looks rather dark, but that's because we see that light white value there. And the light value is here. So don't be fooled by that. Yeah, we've already established that if I compare this value to this value, it's the same, so it must be good, but okay, I cannot see that at this moment, it doesn't work yet, because the rest of the values aren't there already. So we just have to be confident that this will work. And that takes a little bit of practice and time to get that confidence, because tonal values work together, and now they don't because we lack the light tonal values. No problem, just keep going, and later on, that's what I wanted to say, you can always at a later stage check again if you've made mistakes in tonal values, but just first wait till you've finished. So that's very important. This tonal value, do I encounter it at other spots? Yeah, over there. So here again, there we go. A little bit like this maybe, you see, it's a little bit of, yeah, misty. And we can drop it here as well again. Slightly like this, but we don't have to be too precise. Just drop it in a little bit. See? There we go. To make it even more soft. Then we head over to this tonal value. We're getting lighter and lighter, but first what do we need to do? Clean the brush again. That's the story of our life. We need to clean the brush all the time. There you go, clean enough, and I head over to this value. And where do we encounter that value? Well, over here. On top of the apple here. And maybe that cast shadow, I've made it a little bit too hard. I will adjust that later, that's no problem. Over here a little bit, then we go around here, you see, and you can wipe it a little bit like this. Oops, I have to be careful to take the right tonal value. So it was difficult talking and painting at the same time. Before you know it, you mess up. And there we go, all the way down here. Maybe a little bit here, like that. That's already good. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I think that's good. Oh, a little bit here at the stem. I'm completely forgetting the stem. So there again, I can also use a transitional, slightly darker value at this stage. You see, so I've completely forgotten that one, I'm sorry. But you see, that's no problem as well, because we have the paints on our palette. So I can just go back and say, okay, this needs a little bit of this. You see, no problem at all. Okay, then I clean the brush again, and we head over to the, oh, I forgot. Almost forgot, here is this spot. And it's difficult maybe to see as well now in my painting, because I paint on a grey canvas. I clean the brush again, same process, make it moist, wipe off, etc. And then I head over to the very light tonal value, this one, and I see it also at the side here, a little touch. There, maybe it's a little bit too hard. And then here, You see, slightly light over there. At the top of the stem, maybe here, like this. Just drop it in a little bit, and maybe there a touch, and here. So you see it catches light. And then, where is it lightest? There and here, surrounding this lightest part. So now we go to the light part of the apple, that's over here. You see, and we just drop this next to the previous value. There we go. You can just paint it in like this. And again, now you see no difference between this and this. This has to become lighter, and that we'll do that in the next step. At this stage, it looks a little bit weird, but I don't mind. See, so now we're at the light part here. There we go. And you could say, well, let's do that, just to show again that it's easy to blend. Grab a little bit of this paint, mix it with a little bit of the slightly darker paint we used previously, and then just wipe the two together like this. See, it's very easy. It's no problem at all. Now, that was that. Oh yeah, that light color is also over here. There we go. And now, last but not least, the lightest value. And then, I hope, everything will start working. So, just grab this one. Let us start with the highlight on the apple. And again, it is almost white, but not pure white. We've established that when we started this painting, when we looked for the tonal values. So it's very light, but not pure white. See? There we go. And I try to, yeah, I think it's good. And maybe at the stem here a little touch, and maybe here in the, over there. And the cast shadow I want to get to shortly, because that's a little bit too hard. But now first let us drop in the rest of this very light color. And now the magic will start happening. I hope. It should be that now the magic starts happening. Here we get to the apple. You see, and this is also, it's one of the ways of painting, because usually it's easy to paint the background first and then head over to the foreground. But that's another thing. You can of course also start the background with the tonal values first and say, okay, in the background, what is the lightest, what is the darkest, and fill that in, and then start the whole process again with the foreground. So there are so many ways you can build a painting. It's never a case that if I show something, it's never to say that you always have to do it exactly like this. There are no rules in art. There are many ways to build fantastic paintings. And painting isn't fun anymore when you say you can do it only in one way. Oh yeah, for an edge like this, it's easy when you have a flat brush, load it quite full. You load it and you just follow the line like this, and then you just wipe it out. You just add more paint. And then, oops, I think I'm gonna run out of this light paint, but that's no problem, I can mix new. You see, just fill it with paint, and now to make it look consistent, I have to stand in front of the camera for a little bit. I just wipe it in one direction. See? There we go. You see that now it starts happening a little bit. Now I repeat the process. I just push the paint around the edge of the apple. But you see, now I run out of paint, so there's nothing to push. And when you don't have paint, you cannot push the paint. So I need to mix a little bit more, clean the palette knife, and now I can continue. So you see, when you've no paint, when you run out of paint, you cannot paint. Sounds silly, but a lot of times people use too little paint, and then when you do that you run into all kinds of trouble, because you have to remix the same kind of color. Takes time, the paint dries on your canvas, and then you make all kinds of mistakes. So again, it's better to use a little bit more paint. So you see now that light does its job. I've forgotten a part here, but you see how easy it is when the tonal values are still on your palette? I say, oh, I've forgotten oh, that's a little bit too light, sorry, I needed this value. I've forgotten a part, no problem at all, because the paint is still on my palette. And now to make the cast shadow soft again a little bit, I grab this kind of tonal value that's a little bit in between the white and the gray here. You see, and I just repaint this a little bit. It's a little bit messy. There you go. Then we have that soft edge again. And to make this is a little bit of a hard edge, and there it is a hard edge, but I make it slightly softer by adding a slight touch of a slightly lighter value. Then I add that dark value again, so make it slightly softer, and then I grab a slightly lighter value just to wipe it a little bit. You see, then it looks a little bit more as if the value is connected to the table. Oops, here I mess up a little bit. So, there we go. This, I make it slightly lighter, that cast shadow. Slightly more subtle. See, there we go. And this, that hole is a little bit more like this. Here as well. Okay, and there it's a little bit more dark. There we go. So, good enough. And again, I didn't do things like blending too much. I showed it at some spots. But for instance, if we want to blend that light thing here, the highlight with the surroundings, I just put some new light paint on the canvas. You see? Then I go over to that previous value, that slightly lighter value, and I drop that. I'll blend that a little bit. Then I go over to an even darker value and I blend that a little bit. And then you see you get a very, very soft, nice transition between lighter and dark. So that's no problem at all. And the same goes for that value over there. If you want to blend that, just take these two values, mix them together a little bit, and then you can blend this as well. So, and you can do that with all the values, of course. And so now you see all these edges, but you can, of course, easily, I'll show you once more, between these two values, you can very easily smoothen them out by making transitional values between the two. You hardly need to blend. Do you see? This line is rather hard as well, you see? Well, then we make an in-between value over there. You see how easy it is, but that's only easy because I've done all the preparations of the tonal values. And what I also really like about this tonal value studies, because we focused on working from the darkest dark to the lightest light, we've seen this was very dark, this got slightly lighter, and you see this is the darkest part in the shadow. The light hits the apple from this side, then this is the light part, here it gets darker, here no light can come, and here as well, so this is the darkest part. But here, light, reflected light hits back into the shadow and lightens it up a little bit. And you see that a lot of times, but a mistake that we easily could have made when we didn't focus that good on the tonal values, we could have made this way too light. That's a mistake a lot of people make when they see a lighter part in dark shadows. They put in a very light color, but you see, it's lighter, but it's not that light. And now you see that this has a very subtle effect, a realistic effect, because we've stuck to the tonal values. So I hope that was helpful. In the next video we're gonna step up a little bit, then we're gonna paint this statue, and then we're gonna search ourselves for the main values, and then we're gonna build that painting step by step. Thanks for watching, see you next time.